Hello and welcome to the video by TrumpExcel. I am Sumit Bansal, and in this video I will show you how to get the data from an external Excel workbook into your current workbook using Power Query. Now here I have this new workbook called Book 1, and what I want to do is I have this folder here called Getting Data from Excel, and in this I have this workbook with the name Sales Data July 2018, and I want to get the data from this workbook into my current workbook. So if I open this, you can see this is the data where I have these office supplies data, and this is my data set, and I want to get this data set into my current workbook using Power Query. Now I can simply copy paste this, but Power Query has the benefit that if this data updates, then my Power Query can simply refresh and update the data in the current workbook. So there are a couple of ways to do it. Let me first close this and show you how to do this when you have the data as a tabular data form without a table. So here I have book 1. I would go to the data tab, and here I would go to get data from file from workbook, and when I click on this, it opens the import data dialog box. Here I can select the data that I want. You will have to locate the folder and then select the file, and then when I click on import, it opens the navigator pane here, navigator preview window, and it will show me all the objects that this workbook has. So as of now, this workbook has only one object, which is sheet 1. If there are multiple sheets, that would show up here. If there are tables, then those tables would show up because table is also an object. Now when I click on sheet 1, it shows me the entire data set in sheet 1, and you can see I have the data, but I also have these additional two rows, which is the title that I had and all these blank null cells. So I don't want these two rows. I want only the data set which starts from row number 3 here in this data. So I would click on edit, and this would open the query editor. Now in query editor, there are a couple of steps that Power Query has already applied. Let's first look at the source. Now this is sheet 1, the navigator pane that opens, and here we selected sheet 1. So this is what would show you all the objects. In this case there was only one sheet. When we go to navigation, this is what we selected in the data that it imported. So we selected sheet 1, and this is the data from sheet 1, and then it made some changes. It tried to identify some data types and apply those data types. So you can see here it identified this as a text data type. If I click on column 2 and go to transform, you can see it says text, and if I come here it says text. But if I come here and in column 4, I select column 4, it says data type any, which means that it's not sure what kind of data set it is because it has numbers and it has the text as well. Now what I want to do is I want to first remove these first two rows. So I would go to home, and here I have remove rows, and I would remove top rows, and I can specify the number of rows that I want to remove. I only want to remove 2 rows, so I specify 2 here. Those rows are gone. Now I want this to become the header, so I would go to transform, and I would go to use first row as headers, and when I click on it, this becomes the headers. Now a very important step here is to see the data type. So in this case you can see that this is text, but this is any data type. So I need to make sure that the data type is correct. So let me do this column by column. I come here, I select this, the data type is any, but I know that these are dates. So I go to date here, and the data type changes to date. You can see this calendar icon here. This is identified as text, which is fine. This is identified as text, which is fine. This is any, but I know these are whole numbers, so I change this to whole number. This again is whole number, and commission here I can make it a decimal or I can make it percentage. Let's go with percentage here. Now this is the data that is in the right format. This is in has the right number of rows and columns from the data. I've removed the first 2 rows, and I want to get this data in my current workbook. So to do that, I would simply go to home, close and load. And in a few seconds it will update the data. It will put that data here in my current workbook. So it changes the data set into an Excel table automatically. You can see this is an Excel table here with the name sheet 1, which is also the name of the query. If you want to change the name, you can change the name of the query, and that name is automatically given to the table. Now the good thing with this is that if I go back to the original data set and change something, then all I need to do is come here, right click and refresh, and the change would automatically update in this because it is connected to that workbook in the backend. If you go here in the source data in the Power Query and you go to the source, you can see that this is where it is connected to. This is connected to this data set, and that is why whenever any change is made in the original data set, and when I refresh this Power Query, this data would automatically update. Now let me do one thing. Let me close this and let me open this again. And now I'll show you what happens when you have the data as an Excel table. So in this case, I have this data, but let me convert this data into an Excel table. So I use the keyboard shortcut Control T and then I click on OK. It identifies that your data has headers and this is the right data, but you can confirm this. And in this case, let's call this table as sales data. So now I have this workbook, and in this workbook I have this sheet within which I have this table. Now let's save this and close this. Now in this workbook I want to get the table from the sales data. So I would go to data, and again it's the same process. I go to get data from file from workbook. Now I'll have to go to the folder here. This is my file. I go to import. And now you can see that I have two objects. I have sheet 1, but I also have sales data. And this happens because, as I mentioned, table is also an object. So it's giving you this option whether you want to get this entire sheet or you only want to get this table. And when I click on this table, you can see the data is much more refined. I don't have these first two rows here. So I would use the table here. I would click on edit just to make sure that everything is in the right format. And you can see here again it applied a few steps, but things are much better here because Excel first of all identified there were no first two rows. The header has automatically been promoted and this becomes the header because it's from the table directly, and the data types are correct. So this is already a date data type. These are text. You can go to transform and see what the data type is. Another way is you have a look at this icon. So this is for date and this is for whole number. So if I go here, this is whole number, this is whole number, and this is decimal. If you want, you can change this, otherwise decimal is also fine. And I can now go to home, close and load. Now the benefit of using an Excel table is that it saves you a couple of steps. So if you have an Excel table in the source data file, then that's very good and you can get the data. Else you can also import the worksheet. Also notice that the name of the query here is sales data, which is the same as the name of the table we gave in the source file, and this is the name of this table is again the name of the query. So if you have the table with the right name, with the right format, you can very quickly, very easily get this data in your current workbook with Power Query, and this data would update whenever your backend data updates. So let's do one thing. Let me go back to this data and let me show you how it updates. So in this case, let's say I change this to John, and let me make these all John just to make sure that you notice the difference. Now the first four values here are John. Now let me save this, and now when I go back here, all I need to do is I right click, go to refresh and see what happens. Let me come here and do this. So these first four values, these are not John, but if I come here, right click, go to refresh, see what happens. These all update and become John because this Power Query is connected. This query is connected to the source file, and as soon as you refresh, it goes back, checks if the entire data is right or not, and does the entire transformation and again puts the new data in the Excel workbook. So this is how you can import the data from an external Excel workbook into your current workbook using Power Query. That's it in this video. I hope you found this useful. Thank you and have a nice day.